Assalamu alaikum students. Today we will discuss the histology of salivary glands. So there are major salivary glands in the human body, that is the parotid glands, submandibular gland and sublingual glands. These are the large glands which are situated in and around the oral cavity, and their ducts open up into the oral cavity. We have the minor salivary glands. These are the numerous small glands situated in the mucous membrane of the lips, where they are called the labial glands, in the cheeks, where they are called the buccal glands, in the tongue, where they are called the lingual glands, and in the palate, where they are known as the palatine glands. What is the function of saliva? First, an important function of saliva is to keep the mouth moist, oral cavity moist. So this function gives the lubrication and protection. So how lubrication? By the secretion of the mucus lubricates the bolus of the food, and so that we can easily ingest it. And protection is in a sense that the watery secretion of the saliva, it flushes out the food particles, stick to our teeth, which take part in formation of the plaque. So the food particles, they are flushed out, so there is nothing on which bacteria can act. So that's how our oral cavity, environment of the oral cavity is protected. Third function, very important function, the secretion of saliva, it contains enzymes, amylase, lysozymes, and like to some extent the lipase enzyme. So the digestion of the carbohydrate, it starts in the oral cavity. Last but not the least, the saliva contains immunoglobulin A. So what is the general architecture of salivary gland? So salivary gland is an exocrine gland, as I have told you, that they pour their secretions through the ducts into the oral cavity. So they are exocrine glands. So what is the general architecture of the exocrine gland? The gland is divided into two portions: parenchyma, the secretory part, and stroma, the connective tissue portion. Now the whole gland is covered by a dense irregular thin layer of dense irregular connective tissue, which is known as capsule. Fibrous septa from this capsule pass inside the gland and divide the gland into lobe and lobules, smaller parts, the lobules. And in the lobules lie the loose connective tissue, reticular connective tissue, which supports the parenchyma. Now the parenchyma, the secretory part, it consists of secretory end pieces, that is in the form of acini or the tubules or the tubulo-acinar both. So what is acini or tubule or the tubulo-acinar, we will study in the next coming slide. So number 2 part is the ducts. Because it is an exocrine gland, so the secretions are poured into ducts. So there are intralobular ducts, the ducts, smaller ducts, which starts from the end of the acini. They are present in the lobules. Then the interlobular, the ones present between the lobules, and then the interlobar, and then main excretory duct, which opens up into the oral cavity. So the salivary gland is a compound tubulo-alveolar gland. Now in these glands, the secretory portions are in the form of irregularly branched tubules with numerous acinar outgrowths on the walls of the tubules and at the blind end of each tubule. The duct system is highly branched, and the submandibular gland is a typical example of tubuloacinar gland. What are the differences now? The secretory part, the differences between the serous acini and the mucus acini. The serous acini, they are circular in shape, while the mucus acini, they are usually tubular in shape. And the lumen of the serous acini is small as compared to the mucus acini, whose lumen is large. The serous acini, they are lined by pyramidal cells, while the mucus acini, they are lined with columnar shaped cells. The nucleus of the serous acini, they are rounded and located basally in the cell, while the nuclei in the mucus acini are flattened and they are located peripherally towards the basement membrane of the cell. Now the apical portions of the serous acini, they are filled with zymogen granules. Now these granules, they take up the eosinophilic stain and they secrete the enzymes. While the apical portions of the mucus acini, they are filled with mucinogen granules, which are secreted and it becomes mucus. Then the cells are darkly stained. The apical portions are stained pink due to presence of zymogen granules, while the basal portions, they are stained basophilic. Now why basal portions are stained basophilic? Because uh, these cells are protein secreting cells also, because they secrete various enzymes. These cells have the well developed rough endoplasmic reticulum with abundant ribosomes. So these ribosomes, because they are ribonucleic acids, they take basic stain, that is the hemotoxylin, and this gives purple color. So they are stained purple in the basal parts and pink in the apical parts, while the mucus cells, they are slightly stained because the mucus is washed, mucin is washed out because of the fixation process, and the apical portions of the cells are empty looking. So the serous cells, they secrete watery secretions, and the enzymes amylase, lysozyme, while the mucus acini, they secrete mucus secretions. And best example of the gland containing the serous acini is the parotid gland. It consists wholly on the serous acini, while the sublingual gland is a predominant mucus gland which contains mostly mucus acini. Some of the serous acini, they are also present. So here you can see, this is a diagrammatic picture showing the secretory end pieces. You can see here the secretory end pieces, and in which you can see the serous acini and the mucus acini. So these are the serous acini. You can see the pyramidal cells. Nuclei are spherical, located near the base, and in apical portions lies the zymogen granules. Lumen is small as compared to the mucus acini, and the mucus acini, it consists of pyramidal cells, columnar cells with peripherally flattened nucleus and lightly stained cells. So here again a diagrammatic picture, the mucus acini and the serous acini. So the mucus acini, you can see here the flattened peripheral nucleus with zymogen mucin granules in the apical part, which are washed in the fixation, while the serous acini, they contain the pink pink zymogen granules in the apical part and purple basal portions. Now, another term for the acini or the secretory part in the salivary glands is the serous demilunes. What are serous demilunes? These are the serous cells capped on the mucus acini. So this feature of half-shaped serous acini, moon-shaped serous acini present on the uh, uh, surface of mucus acini. This is known as serous demilunes. Now, this is a feature of the predominantly of the mixed salivary gland, that is the submandibular gland, which contains the mucus as well as the serous acini. Now here is the picture showing the histological section of the serous acini and the mucus acini. This one is the serous acini, while this is the mucus acini. Now you can see the serous acini, they consist of pyramidal cells having, this is the pyramidal cell, nucleus is spherical lying towards the base, apical part of the cell is filled up with pink granules, that is the zymogen granules, and basal parts are stained purple due to the presence of rough endoplasmic reticulum and ribosomes. Now these are the mucus acini. Mucus acini are large as compared to the serous acini. Their lumen is also large, while the cells are columnar having flattened peripheral nucleus, you can see here, and the apical portions of the mucus cells, they are lightly stained because mucus, it doesn't take H&E stain. So the serous acini, they are generally pyramidal in shape. The serous acini cells are pyramidal in shape, you can see here, and they have a broad base facing the basal lamina and a relatively narrow apical surface facing the lumen of the acinus. So this is the narrow apical surface. Now each cell contains a spherical nucleus located in the basal part of the cell, which contains numerous mitochondria, abundant rough endoplasmic reticulum, and many free ribosomes. The apical regions of serous cells contains numerous secretory granules. These are known as the zymogen granules. A well-developed Golgi apparatus is present between the nucleus and the secretory granules here. So the examination of H&E stain section reveals that basal region of secretory cells give a basophilic stain, while the apical region stains acidophilic. The basophilic staining of basal part of serous cell is due to abundance of rough endoplasmic reticulum and free ribosomes in this part. Now here you can see the well-developed rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the apical portions of serous cell stain acidic due to presence of large number of zymogen granules. Now electron microscopic picture shows that adjacent serous cells are joined to each other by junctional complexes. So here you can see that these are joined by junctional complexes. Apical to the junctional complex, the intercellular canaliculi exist between the adjacent serous cells. So you can see these are intercellular canaliculi which exist between two cells. These canaliculi communicate with the acinar lumen, and basal to the junctional complexes, the plasma lemma of the serous cell exhibit folds in the form of process that interdigitate with similar process of the neighboring cells. So, serous cells of the salivary gland produce thin watery secretion which is rich in digestive enzyme amylase and also contain antimicrobial agents like lysozyme and proline rich proteins. So, this is the electron microscopic appearance of the mucus acini and the serous acini, serous cells. So, this is the mucus cell, while this is the serous cell. You can see here the mucus cells, they have got oval or flattened nucleus, and this is pressed against the basal plasma lemma, and because the apical region of each mucus cell is occupied by numerous mucin granules which are washed out during histological procedure. So you can see this is the mucin granules. Therefore, in ordinary H&E stained section examined under light microscope, the apical regions of mucus cell cells, they stain poorly and appear to be empty. Now, electron microscope reveals that mucous cells contain mitochondria, moderate amount of endoplasmic reticulum, but a very large, well-developed Golgi apparatus. So why we need a very large, well-developed Golgi apparatus in mucous acini? Because Golgi apparatus performs the important function of addition of carbohydrates to the proteins, which are synthesized by the rough endoplasmic reticulum to produce glycoproteins of the mucus. Myoepithelial cells, these are the types of cells found to be located between the basement membrane and the basal lamina of the serous or mucous cells forming the secretory end pieces, that is the acini or the tubules. Now each myoepithelial cell has a body and many long process. So you can see that it has got a body and long process of wood. Each myoepithelial cell, now it envelops the secretory cells. The cell body contains the nucleus and the number of small organelles. The cell process contain actin and myosin filaments. The myoepithelial cells are contractile cells, and their contractions push the secretory product of acinar cells towards the excretory ducts. So they push the secretion towards the excretory duct, and these cells stain poorly and cannot be easily identified in the H&E section. This is the section of the salivary gland, that is the parotid gland, and you can see the fibrous septa passing inside the gland with the blood vessels in it and the ducts. And these fibrous septa, they are dividing the gland substance into smaller parts, that is the lobules. So this is the one lobule, and this lobule, here you can see the lobule is containing the secretory end pieces and the intralobular ducts, that is the intercalated duct and the striated duct. The interlobular ducts are located in the septas, and then interlobar, and then the main excretory duct. So you can see the secretory end pieces. This is a lobule. This is a boundary of lobule. Secretory end pieces. These are the intercalated ducts, and then the striated ducts, and then the interlobular ducts. Duct system of the salivary glands. As I have told you before, the intralobular ducts, then the interlobular ducts, interlobar ducts, and then main excretory duct. The intralobular ducts are of two types, the intercalated ducts and the striated ducts, while these interlobar, and the main excretory duct lie outside the lobules. So here you can see that the intercalated duct lie between the serous acini, lying between the serous acini. Look at the size, and it is lined by cuboidal cells. And these are the striated ducts. These are lined by columnar cells, but their nuclei, they lie in the apical region, while the basal region of the striated ducts are showing basal striations. This is the interlobular excretory duct lined with either cuboidal epithelium or stratified cuboidal epithelium. Then the intercalated duct, features of intercalated. Now these intralobular ducts in the salivary glands are very important ducts, that is, they not only convey the saliva towards the main excretory duct, but they also change the composition of the saliva by excreting and absorbing something. So they have also function of absorption and secretion. So these intercalated ducts are lined by cuboidal epithelial cells, you can see here, and these cells are stained lightly, and they possess carbonic anhydrase activity, that is, they secrete bicarbonate ions into the salivary secretions. into the SNR products. So you can well appreciate their size as compared to the secretory SNI, serous SNI, and chloride is absorbed from the SNR product, and so they have the and also they have the capacity to divide into parenchymal cells or the ductal cells. So these cells, they perform two functions. They secrete bicarbonate into the salivary secretion, and they absorb chloride from the salivary secretion, and they have the capacity to divide into parenchymal cells or the ductal cells. So they also act as stem cells. The striated ducts, they are larger than the serous SNI. So you can see here, these are the serous SNI and this is the striated duct. So you can compare the size of the two. It is lined by eosinophilic columnar cells with apical nuclei. So why nuclei? They are lying in the apical region because in the basal region of the striated ducts are present some striations on histological section, and these striations are due to the these striations are due to the foldings of the basal plasma membrane of these cells, and due to presence of the excessive mitochondria here. Now these cells, they reabsorb sodium from the salivary secretion, and they secrete potassium and bicarbonate into the secretion. So these ducts of the striated ducts, they are involved in the ion transport, and these basal striations are an important histological feature of this ion transport, and this is due to infolding of the basal portions of the cell to increase the surface area for the ion transport, and also excessive mitochondria, they lie in these folds to provide energy. Now you can very well answer that why some of the intralobular ducts in the salivary glands are named as striated ducts, and because they show basal striations in their basal parts. And what structure produce basal striations in the cells involved in ion transport? So the structure which is involved in basal striations in production of basal striation is the basal plasma membrane and the mitochondria present between these foldings. And of course this arrangement facilitates the ion transport across the cell membrane. Now why the saliva, it becomes hypotonic after passing through intralobular ducts? Because sodium is reabsorbed. And why it is necessary to make it hypotonic? So uh, the so that when the primary secretion is produced from the SNI, they are isotonic to the blood, and later on with passage through the intercalated and the striated duct, sodium is reabsorbed in the striated duct, so the saliva, it becomes hypotonic. So why we need a hypotonic saliva? Because if sodium is present in excessive amount, it will stimulate the taste buds in the oral cavity. So the salivary secretion is hypotonic. So parotid gland, now we will differentiate between the three glands, the histological features. Number one is the parotid gland. So this is a purely serous gland. Most of the secretions are coming from the parotid gland, and they consist only of serous SNI. So they only contain the secretory end piece. It contains the serous SNI. No mucous SNI are present here. Now, serous secretions are watery in nature, containing enzymes, and secretion has to change its composition. There are long intercalated ducts and long striated ducts. So, how we will figure it out in the histological section? We will have more sections of intercalated ducts and the striated ducts in a given lobule in a section. Now, this parotid gland with age, the parotid gland normally contains more adipose tissue, fat cells, and with age it increases as compared to the other two glands. Sublingual gland, it is predominantly mucus gland, and serous acini are also present, but very less in amount. Secretions are mucus in nature, and they are, so that's why not so much long intercalated and striated ducts are needed. So there are short intercalated and striated ducts present in this type of gland. And in the histological section, we will find very less sections of the intercalated and striated ducts because they are short in length. Now, submandibular gland is a mixed lively gland. It is predominantly serous gland, and mucus acini are also present. And there is the presence of another structure which is known as the serous demilunes. So you can see here in this picture, serous demilunes. These are the serous demilunes are the half-shaped acini on the mucus cells, mucus acini, and these are present in mostly in the submandibular gland, and uh, um, these serous demilunes exhibit crescent-shaped appearance in histological section. Now, there are two school of thoughts about these serous demilunes. One says that it is an artifact produced during the fixation process, and the other school of thought says that it is a developmental process present, already present in the gland. And the submandibular gland, they have predominantly serous secretions. So, for your better understanding, you can see here that the salivary glands, they are compound tubuloalveolar glands, and they are shaped like a bunch of grapes. So, you can see here the grapes, the acini with the branches, and you can see here the main branch of the grapes, and then the duct, they branch further, and at the ends are attached the acini or the tubular part. Differences between the three salivary glands I have summarized in the form of uh, a table. And the parotid glands are branched acinar glands, while submandibular glands are branched tubuloacinar gland, and sublingual glands are also branched tubuloacinar glands. And parotid gland, they are of mostly serous, consist of serous acini, while submandibular gland are of mixed variety, and sublingual gland are mostly mucus uh, acini, mostly consists of mucus acini. Intercalated ducts, they are longer in parotid gland, and in the submandibular gland, because of the serous secretions, they have to be there have to be a change in the secretion, and intercalated ducts are shorter in the sublingual glands because the secretion is mostly mucus. Now, striated ducts are longer in the parotid and submandibular gland, while striated ducts are shorter in the sublingual gland. Serous demilunes are absent in the parotid gland, while serous demilunes are present in the submandibular as well as in the sublingual glands. Minor salivary glands are the aggregates of mucus acini or the mucoserous acini, and there are no striated ducts, only intercalated ducts are present, and they open through small ducts in the oral cavity, and they are usually not encapsulated. That is all for today's lecture. I hope you have understood the histology of the salivary glands.